Okay, so just finishing up number 4, just as that last video was ending, we had found the time for the dog to be 7.5497 seconds. The other one was the negative while it was processing. I figured it out, negative 0.88304. Obviously, time can't be negative. It has to be this one. Second part of the question then wants to know how far. So you can take this time and fill it in for delta D of the dog. Delta D of the dog will equal 1/2 1.5 meters per second squared times that 7.5497 seconds squared. And that will give you the delta D of the dog. Or you can also find the delta D of the jogger. V av delta T jogger. And so VAV was what, 5 meters per second. And if you're doing the jogger, then it has to be this time plus 1. So it'll be 7.5497 seconds plus 1 second. Delta D of the jogger should end up being 42.7485 meters. Delta D of the dog should end up being 42.7485 meters. If you haven't rounded your times too much, they should be identical. Okay? So that is number 4. Number 5 is actually very similar. And number 5, it's Jerry Seinfeld and one of his old high school friends, and they're racing. So that means VI for both of them equals 0, because usually in a race, you start from rest, or you're supposed to. Jerry leaves 0.5 seconds before the other guy, so their times are not going to be the same. Jerry's acceleration is 2 meters per second squared. The friend's is 2.2 meters per second squared. And if Jerry leaves 0.5 seconds before the other one, then the other guy's time, the friend's, is going to be Jerry's time minus 0.5 seconds. Or Jerry's time will be the friend's time plus 0.5. Okay, the delta D should be the same because it wants to know how long before the friend catches up to Jerry. So again, 2 unknowns for each of them. So delta D of Jerry is going to be VI delta T 1/2 A of Jerry delta T of Jerry squared. This goes to 0. So delta D of Jerry is equal to 1/2 A of Jerry delta T of Jerry squared. For the friend, it's the same equation. The VI goes to 0 again. So 1/2 A of the friend delta T of the friend squared. So delta D of the friend is equal to 1/2 A of the friend delta T of the friend squared. This time I didn't write down the 2 possible ways to write T, because no matter which one you sub it in here, you're going to have to square it, right? We know the delta D's will be the same when the friend catches up. So that means 1/2 A of Jerry delta T of Jerry squared will equal 1/2 A of the friend delta T of the friend squared. Okay? And so we have 2 different times here. We can now take this and sub it in. So 1/2 A of Jerry delta T of Jerry squared is equal to 1/2 A of the friend brackets delta T of Jerry minus 0.5 of a second. And I'm going to write it squared, so that's the same as saying times delta T of Jerry minus 0.5 seconds again. Okay, so this side will stay the same, 1/2 A of Jerry delta T of Jerry squared equals 1/2. You could ditch the 1/2s here because they're in front of both. So A of the friend, and now we need to FOIL this. So delta T of Jerry squared minus 0.5 seconds delta T of Jerry minus 0.5 seconds delta T of Jerry, and then plus 0.5 times 0.5. So 0.5 seconds, and that's going to be squared. Close the brackets. Okay, so A of Jerry delta T of Jerry squared will equal, multiplying through A of the friend delta T of Jerry squared, Minus 0.5 plus minus 0.5 will give us 1 second. So minus 1 second delta t of Jerry, that's J, delta t of Jerry, plus 0.5 squared, 0.25 seconds squared. Okay, so, oh, I lost the a though, didn't I? Multiply through by the a and then not do that times a of the friend. Okay, so it's going to be a quadratic again. See, a of Jerry, t squared, t, in a whole number term. So I'd bring this over first, so to be 0 equals a of the friend delta t of Jerry squared minus a of Jerry delta t of Jerry squared minus a of the friend times 1 second delta t of Jerry is equal to plus 0.25 seconds squared times a of the friend. That's equal to 0. Okay, maybe fill your numbers in and that'll probably make your life easier. So the friend's acceleration was 2.2 meters per second squared, delta t squared, minus Jerry's was 2 meters per second squared, delta t Jerry squared, minus friend 2.2 meters per second squared times 1 second, delta t of Jerry, minus 0.25 seconds squared times 2.2 meters per second squared, and that's going to equal 0. So both of these are t squared terms, so you can just subtract them. So it's going to be 0.2 meters per second squared delta t squared. 1 times 2.2 is 2.2 meters per second squared times seconds is meters per second delta t. A quarter of 2.2, that should be 0.55. So minus 0.55 seconds squared times meters per second squared should be meters. Okay, and so now we have our quadratic. There it is, where our a is equal to 0.2 meters per second squared, our b is equal to negative 2.2 meters per second squared, and our c is equal to negative 0.55 meters. Okay, and so now we're going to do exactly like what we did in the last one. We're going to do delta t of Jerry is equal to negative b. So negative 2.5 meters per second. There was no squared on that. Plus or minus square root b squared, so negative 2.2 meters per second squared, minus 4a, 0.2 meters per second squared, c, negative 0.55 meters, and then it's all divided by 2a, 0.2 meters per second squared. So it'll be 2.2 meters per second plus or minus under the root. If this is going to be plus, if you do the whole thing out, because I'm going to run out of time otherwise, you get 4.4 meters squared per second squared, and that's going to be over 0.4 meters per second squared. So delta t of Jerry is going to equal either 2.2 meters per second plus or minus 2.0976 meters per second divided by 0.4 meters per second squared. So you're going to get two possible times, either 10.744 seconds or negative, trying to find my other one, or 0.25596 seconds. These are the times for Jerry, and these both might seem reasonable until you realize this is the time for Jerry. The time for the friend is a half a second less, and so this second one isn't possible, because when you take a half a second off 0.25 of a second, the friend's time ends up being negative here, 244. So it has to be this one, and the friend's time would then be 10.244 seconds. So it has to be this second.